Hey, how are we, guys? Welcome back to the Freedom Network podcast. My name is Josh Blanchard. So today I have the pleasure of being joined by Amyrose. She's a holistic health practitioner from over there in Canada. But yeah, Amy, thanks for coming on and having a chat.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, Josh. Excited to just have a chat with another awake human being. It's always fun to hit record on just like a casual conversation, because I think people can really glean a lot from it and find value in just conversations. So excited to be here.
Definitely. So if you could just start by giving us a little bit about you, like telling us a little bit about yourself, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a holistic health practitioner. I'm a yoga teacher and a Thai bodywork practitioner as well, so Thai massage. And I'm also a healer. And I'm a healer because I teach people how to heal themselves, which is really the only way. And I've studied with the Chek Institute, so created by Paul Chek in San Diego, California. And it's really one of the most comprehensive holistic healing systems in the world. And I just feel really fortunate to have been able to study with a couple of different mentors. So my journey has really just been all about healing my own health and getting to the bottom of my health issues. And then from there, it was like this career chose me. So, yeah.
So I was just saying to you off air that I first come across you through the podcast you were doing with Tom Barnett, and it just, them conversations were incredible, and it really opened me up to this new way of thinking. And it just, I see a lot of people out there that are awake and aware of what's going on at the moment, but they haven't gone down the terrain theory rabbit hole yet, and they just don't understand it. And a lot of people I tried to explain it to can't seem to wrap their heads around it. So I thought it'd be great to get yourself on, and someone that knows the terrain theory well, and you're holistic health practitioner. So could you just explain to us your understanding of terrain theory?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's understandable how people can't really have a hard time understanding it. And I'm still learning myself. I'm by no means, I know everything about it. But it makes sense why it would be challenging to learn it all and to feel like confident with it, because this is suppressed science from the past. And frankly, it does make a lot more sense. But we don't have elders, to really help guide us to learn about terrain theory. We don't have a whole lot of literature to help learn. And that's why it's so important that we share information. And I'll get into a little bit more about this as we go on. But, having a conversation like this, even, with myself, is I've been studying these past couple of years, but like I said, I'm by no means an expert, but by having this conversation, we can start to at least have the conversation and, and start to open this up, because we're being censored in every single angle. So it's understandable that it's like difficult to really comprehend. So I guess for me, learning about terrain theory, it would be initially when I came down with the so-called sea flu. And this was at the beginning of February 2020. So right before all of the madness, I had this really intense flu. And then I lost my taste and smell for a month. And this was like unlike any other losing your taste and smell kind of thing. I couldn't even smell my essential oils, like right up underneath my nose. And I thought, what's going on here? This is something different. And I had this real epiphany. Now, this might make me sound a little bit, crazy, but I thought to myself, well, what else causes loss of taste and smell? And it was like a lightning bolt hit me. And I realized that radiation sickness is also makes you lose your taste and smell. And then I started piecing the puzzle together. And like I said, it was like a lightning bolt hit me. And then from there, everything fell into place. I came across Dr. Thomas Cowan's video, that viral video at the beginning, where he's doing a lecture and talking about how our understanding of so-called V's is wrong. And that, as Rudolf Steiner had said, that they are excretions of a toxic cell. So instead of it being this invader from the outside, instead it's something that we make on the inside in response to systemic toxicity or a poisoning. So whether that poisoning be from the environment, from our food, our air, our water, or that poisoning could be from an electromagnetic assault. And then he said, we recently put something into our ether, into our environment, that is clearly affecting people. And so we're having these flu expressions. So from there, that was really the piece. And to any of the listeners listening to this, saying, well, that does appeal to my logic. It does kind of make sense. As you're navigating information, to always measure something up against your discernment and start to develop your discernment. So anyways, so from there, I came across Tom Barnett and his viral video as well, just like you did, where he really breaks it down. And, as I dug into this, I realized how much it made sense, because here we have this paradigm where we are blaming sickness on these tiny little microbes, the microbes that you can't see, right? And we're blaming sickness on them when they are intrinsically a part of nature, when they are ubiquitous, they're everywhere. And we think that they're causing sickness, when maybe it's toxicity, and what a ruse that is, to blame a sickness on an invisible particle when really it's poisoning. And I feel like a lot of normies have a hard time acknowledging that we are being poisoned from pretty much every single conceivable angle. Of course, our food, I mentioned before, our air, geoengineering is real. It's happening, and it's something we absolutely need to start getting louder about. And then, of course, our water, fluoride, and all of the chemicals that they put in our water to clean it. These things over time, they build up in our body, and we should be so thankful for that flu expression, that we have that healing mechanism to get rid of deep-seated toxicity at the cellular level. And that's what a flu is. Our body heats up and expels that deep cellular toxins or damaged DNA, packages it up in little so-called V's, and they exit the cell, they butt out of the cell, and it comes out of our body. And is it really contagious? And that's like another thing that we can sort of dive into, which I just recently made a post about. Often people ask, well, if they don't cause disease, then why does it look like they're contagious? Like, why does it look like that, at my workplace, there seems to be a sickness that spread through the workplace, and 80% of the people got sick, or 60%, or a family, right? You go home for Christmas, and then so-and-so had a sniffle, and then so-and-so left with a cold and a flu and gave it to this person and that person, right? So we've seen that, but we have to remember that correlation doesn't equal causation. And what we've been finding as we dig into the terrain literature and the ways that these authors have described it, is that instead of this little bug jumping out of my mouth, traveling on, a water molecule on the air and going into that person's mouth or eyes or whatever and making them sick, instead, what's happening is that we're radiating out signals to each other all the time. And especially, when we're in a detox, when we're in a deep cleansing detox state, that we're radiating that out from us. And if other bodies come in the vicinity of us, they pick up that information. We are constantly talking to other bodies, and they pick up that information, and that body says, well, this person is cleansing. Do I need to cleanse? And I think the body in that point in time decides whether or not it needs that cleanse. If maybe it doesn't need it, and because they had a flu, couple weeks prior, then they won't go through that expression. But if their body could use that, they will go through it. And so this is like a tribal mechanism. This is something that is part of the human condition, that is part of being human, that we would confer to each other resilience and survival and information. So, there's a lot of questions that come up with terrain theory, and the terrain explanations, in my opinion, make so much more sense than the terrain theory.
100%. Yeah, that's like when I first heard it. It took me a while to wrap my head around it all, but it just resonated with me straight away, and just made so much more sense than germ theory. But that's the thing, I think, is we've been so programmed over the years, and these things are instilled in us. I think you need to allow yourself time to deprogram, don't you? And it's a lot to wrap your head around. We've just been lied to, not just about germ theory, about everything. History's a lie. Look at the word, his story. But that leads me to my next question about what's making everyone sick at the moment, because I'm sure it's probably the same over there in Canada. It seems here in Australia that a lot of so-called truthers or awake people, whatever you want to call them, are coming down sick at the moment. They don't obviously have the jab. And some of them seem to think that they've got COVID. And it's like, you guys have been speaking out about this for, 2 years now, telling everyone that it doesn't exist. And now all of a sudden you've got it and you think it exists. Have you forgotten that the PCR test doesn't test for an infection? Have you forgotten that they haven't isolated the virus? But
right.
What is it that is making these people sick? Because it frustrates me, because I've spent, a long time, almost 2 years now, trying to educate people on terrain theory and the fact that, there is no virus out there. It is our environment that is making us sick. It's our stress and stuff that you were labeling before. So what is it, though, now that's making the people sick more than before? Because it seems like a lot of people are really starting to come down ill. And if they don't think it's COVID, they seem to think it's the spike protein shedding. So can you just shed a bit of light on that and
sure.
Tell everyone it's not the spike protein?
Right. We'll shed a little bit of light on it. So there's a couple of things that you mentioned there. So about 3 different things. So I'll start with the shedding thing. So again, our bodies are imagine. It's not hard to imagine. It's true. We have these this field. Our heart has a torus field, and then our body has a torus field. So we're electrical, energetic beings as much as we are like flesh and blood matter beings. And so when you're next to someone, if you're an unjabbed person and you're next to someone who has been recently jabbed or even ongoing,